Hello, and welcome to GovCast, an interview series brought to you by Government Fleet. Today's episode is sponsored by and produced in partnership with Ridecell. Ridecell has a suite of solutions that help fleets manage their operations. Their Motorpool technology simplifies Motorpool management and allows fleet operations to be more efficient while boosting employee mobility. Before we get into today's episode, remember to follow and connect with us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss future episodes of GovCast. In today's episode, Thi Dao, Executive Editor for Government Fleet, sits down with Daniel McGehee, Head of Sales, US and APAC for Ridecell. They discuss top concerns for motorpools, keyless technology, and how motorpools have transformed the way fleets are managed. And now, Thi's conversation with Daniel.
Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, great to be here.
The first question I wanted to ask you today are, what are some of the common concerns and pain points that motorpool fleet owners are facing today?
I think some of the things on the fleet management side that we've seen be problems where we're helping you address with Motorpool are managing keys. So specifically, the way things work today, people will typically have someone that checks a vehicle out with an employee at a front desk and then signs them on a checkboard and physically hands a key. There's also, when you're running these large fleets, you need to understand a bit better how are you attributing costs to different departments. So what we've found is that without the right amount of data, it's hard for the fleet manager to know, should I be adding vehicles to the fleet? Should I be removing them? Or possibly just reallocating my existing resources to different departments based on their use case. And then I think the third piece there is also making it a reliable system for the drivers. And so if you're unable to make a reservation in advance or do it easily, that can lead to a lot of operational problems or maybe even just reluctance to use the services that don't have technology.
Understood. And how does a motorpool platform combined with keyless technology help address some of these concerns?
Well, so our platform is able to give the fleet managers as well as the individual drivers a set of tools that makes it easier to use the fleet of vehicles they have. From a fleet management perspective, because the system's electronic, we're able to allocate certain costs to drivers as well as departments. So from a planning perspective, it makes that conversation a lot easier, and it takes a lot of the workload off of the fleet team, so they can focus on day-to-day operations rather than figuring out who's using which vehicle when and how much it should be costing each department. And then from a user perspective, because they have the ability to reserve on their computer or from their phone, as well as access the vehicle with their employee badge. It makes the system a lot more user-friendly.
When a government agency is looking to purchase a motorpool system, what are the top features they should be looking for?
What we've really tried to focus on with Motorpool is thinking about simplicity for both the fleet manager and the drivers. I would say that's a key piece to consider. The folks that are using these vehicles and driving them, this is just a tool in most of their eyes for how do I get to my meeting on time. If I'm a social worker, I need to go do an on-site visit with someone I'm working with, and we just really want this to be a seamless experience. And so simplicity and having optionality to really fit in the way that the fleet managers and the drivers want to run their operations is extremely important. And then from the fleet manager side, just making sure that once everything is set up, it can really run in the background. And so we work really hard up front with our launch and customer success teams to really understand how the fleet manager wants to structure their operations so that the system is configured in a way that allows them to run it with minimal intervention.
And how long would it take to implement a new solution?
I think the time to deploy really depends on a few key factors. Specifically around telematics. So depending on the telematics partner that our partners are working with, or whether or not that's installed already, It can, be a matter of just like a week or so to get the system in the customer's hands and start in-fleeting the vehicles that may already have telematics on board. And then if they have to add those telematics, there might be a window of time to coordinate with the telematics partner that they're using to make sure that those vehicles are equipped and ready to be used in our system. So it can range, from a few weeks to a month or two, depending on the complexity of the upfront setup.
What are some examples of how motor pools have improved the way fleet managers either manage their fleets or the way that drivers use cars?
Yeah, from the fleet manager perspective, we've seen just having better access to the data around utilization, and then being able to attribute the cost to departments has been a game changer in terms of understanding how do I allocate my resources, and then just giving visibility for planning purposes. And we know that with the pandemic, there's been a lot of budget cuts for city organizations and government organizations. And so this has been a great tool for the fleet managers to really think about how can I reduce my overall fleet size while still making sure I can address the use cases that are necessary to continue performing, the functions that we need to perform on a day-to-day basis. And I think for the drivers, just really having the peace of mind, knowing that they can reserve a vehicle easily from their computer or their phone, they can manage the reservation without having to, physically interact with folks if they don't want to or need to. Has also been really good as far as building confidence in using the service. Whereas before, people just didn't know if they would have a car available until they showed up. And a lot of times there's not really an option to book it that far in advance.
Thank you, Daniel, I appreciate your time today. Thanks to all of you who tuned in to today's episode of GovCast, sponsored by Ridecell. For more information on these products, check out the links below and be sure to subscribe to GovCast so you don't miss an episode.